discuss the Clark County Unified Development Ordinance, and as Mr. Nahan stated earlier, we need to set up our rules much like we did the first time that we had it, because this is not a public hearing. This is not something that we normally do. So I'm just gonna throw this out and you can throw it right back at me. My feelings will not be hurt. I'm just getting us started. I would suggest 2 minutes. No repeats on either side. That's in our rules. So if you're gonna state something that someone before you just stated, just don't. Just say, I agree with what they said, or that's what I was gonna say, and so we can keep everything going. And I would, one person, I mean, you can both come up together. If there's a couple, you can come up together, but we just ask that one person speak. So, does anybody have any other suggestions?
I'd say maybe 3 minutes.
I think we've heard every,
What do you all
we've
think?
heard this.
I've been on 4 meetings, and I've probably got 12 or 14 hours of listening to public comment, and I've heard a lot of it, and I've absorbed a lot of it, and I'm in agreement with what Connie has presented.
Good enough, good enough.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
Excuse me. I would ask if there's any attorneys here that are going to speak, because we.
Does either side have any attorneys that's gonna speak for them as a whole?
Well, my client's also intending to speak.
Are you gonna speak for a group, or are you just gonna speak for your one client?
My client.
So, just 2 minutes or what?
Customarily, we've given attorneys a little bit extra time because they're very clear in their presentation.
What, use big words? It takes them longer to send it out today.
Okay, hey.
We don't know if they're here to talk about solar, or if they're here to talk about the batteries, which is two separate, the tier 1, tier 2 are two separate things, correct?
I don't need extra time. 2 minutes is enough.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
all
So
that.
do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so do I have a second? Second. So I have a motion and a second to adopt the rules that the attendees can speak for 2 minutes, one person per property. You can come up, but we just ask that one person speak. Do not make repetition of the person before you says what you were gonna say. Please don't repeat that. Get to another point that maybe we have not heard, or something new that we have not heard, okay? I ask also, let's go ahead and vote on that. There's a motion and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. And I ask this because this has happened in other meetings, and it might have happened in one of these meetings because I've been in so many with both of you all, I can't remember. But do not be rude when the other person is speaking. We don't need that. I don't need y'all commenting when they're speaking. I don't need them commenting when you're speaking. Just everybody be kind to each other so we can hear and get through this in a civil manner. If that does not happen, the officer will escort you out. And again, he will give you a warning. That has happened before, so we just ask that everyone be courteous, okay? All right. So, do we want to go through the changes first? That's what we did with you, Amy. Do we want to go through the changes first and then have the people come up and speak so that we're clear on what we're talking about?
And I would say have Eric walk you through, he's the one who made
Okay.
these changes.
Yeah,
and
well,
he's
you, but I
comments.
just wanted,
So-
you weren't here last time we went
Yeah.
through this, so.
Follow your lead, but I figured we'd read through all the proposed changes. And I do have them broken up into 12 different sections to kind of help talk about different parts when you want to go back and talk about a particular thing. You've got different sections to go to rather than
Hey, I
trying
can't hear you.
to. Sorry about that.
Okay.
There you
I'm
go.
setting up here and I can't hear you,
Yeah.
so I know they can't hear you.
What was the comment about going back to discuss?
Yeah, I mean, I've got it broken up into like 12 different sections.
Right.
So to make it easier, saying, can we go back to number 1 and talk about that section? So if you have notes as you go along, then kind of mark it on that copy that you've got, and it'll make it easier for us to find when we go back to that. And I'm also planning on, if it goes beyond this stage, breaking it up into possibly 10 different resolutions, so the commissioners will be able to pick and choose which changes they want to,
that's a
and not
good
be
idea.
stuck in a position of an all or nothing
I
type
think
thing.
that's a good idea.
Okay, so the first section would amend changes, or make changes to section C, solar energy system, commercial subsection I, structure standards, commercial SES, subsection C, power and communication lines, by deleting subsection 1 and 2 and replacing with the following. The wording we have here highlighted would be additions, and the strikeouts would be removed, and these sections would read, all power and communication lines on the site shall meet or exceed best standards, and any lines leaving the site must be underground. Now, the remaining section 1 would remain unchanged, and item number 2 would read, power and communication lines between the project and the point of interconnection with the transmission system may be overhead unless those lines exceed a distance of more than a mile. Then it must be approved as part of the special exception process by the BZA. The second amendment would deal with the development standards for commercial SESs on the setbacks from non-participating landowners' property lines. Currently, the setback is 150 feet. It's proposed that it be reduced to 125 feet, sorry. And the provision regarding possibly waiving this distance was, the wording was modified to require a signed and recorded agreement with all the property owners involved if a variance or waiver was going to be requested during the hearing process. The setbacks from the non-participating residential dwellings would be adjusted. Currently, the 650-foot setback from the closest edge of any non-participating residence would be possibly reduced to 400 feet. In this section, additional wording would be added that reads, this would apply to a property with solar on one side of the property line. If the non-participating residential dwelling will have solar along 2 property lines, the setback shall be 425 feet from the closest edge of the non-participating residential dwelling. If any non-participating residential dwelling will have solar on 3 property lines, the setback shall be 625 feet from the closest edge of the non-participating dwelling. If any non-participating residential dwelling will have solar along 4 property lines, the setback shall be 700 feet from the closest edge of the non-participating residential dwelling. And again, these setbacks could be waived if there's a signed and recorded agreement with the property owners of the non-participating residential parcel. And it looks like it took too long. I had signs put up out in the yard so that you could have a reference point on what these distances look
Yeah, I
like,
can
but
see that.
unfortunately, I'll have to run out there with a flashlight for us to see.
Are we discussing these before the public comment, or are you just
No, we will
clarifying?
discuss them after.
After the public
Yes.
comment, we'll discuss these items?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, within this subsection, item 4, dealing with the location, this wording would basically be replaced to read, commercial SES cannot be located within a flood hazard area identified by INDNR, which is the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, a wetland or waterway regulated by the INDR or the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. There was some question about what those definitions were, so we tried to clarify that to make it more specific. The next section would add a new section dealing with substations and inverters. Setbacks from a substation to any non-participating residential dwelling shall be a minimum of 1,250 feet. Setbacks from inverters to any non-participating dwelling shall be 625 feet from any non-participating residential dwelling. These setbacks shall be reduced by the BZA based upon site conditions, or they may be reduced by the BZA based on site conditions or other factors which may include a signed recorded agreement with the property owners as the parcels indicating that reduction is acceptable. The next changes will deal with the screening required for these developments. All commercial energy systems shall be fully screened year-round, including across any street or right-of-way from existing residential dwellings, existing residentially zoned parcels, or existing parcels platted for residential development, unless the solar arrays are more than 625 feet or waived under a written recorded mutual agreement with all affected property owners. Screening should not be required along property lines within the same zoning district unless the zoning parcel has an existing residential use. Screening may include continuous vegetation and/or berms that adequately screens the view of the solar panels and accessory equipment as outlined below. Fencing is not a permitted screening material. The BZA shall have the discretion to reduce or waive the above screening standards when existing vegetation on the commercial SES property is determined to provide an acceptable screen, and this vegetation will be maintained in a manner consistent with the intent of this section. All screening shall comply with the standards of the UDO. Subsection 1 would read, all a landscape plan shall be submitted that identifies the type and extent of proposed buffer screening. Vegetation or other type of buffer can be proposed if it fully screens the facility year-round and is approved as part of the special exception process. The next change would be in subsection 4. Landscape material must consist of evergreen trees that are included on Indiana DNR current tree species information list and are at least 5 feet tall at time of planting and reach a mature height of at least 15 feet. All trees shall be arranged utilizing a triangular spacing pattern staggered with spacing that does not exceed 10 feet between centers, unless approved by the administrator based on anticipated tree width at maturity. The effectiveness of the screening must be maintained at all times as the plants mature. The next amendment would remove the section under ground cover that prohibited the use of insecticides and weed control on the properties. The next section would deal with fencing. We removed the exception that referenced a state statute that doesn't really apply in this case. And then the reading would be worded to read, the project owner shall completely enclose all areas used for the commercial SES, including any structure, component, or electrical device with fencing that is at least 5 feet high. Fencing is in addition to any required screening. Detention basins and drainage swales are excluded from fencing requirements. Fencing materials, barbed wire designs from perimeter fencing are prohibited. Chain link fences and wildlife friendly fencing such as woven wire installed 6 to 12 inches above grade are permitted. Wildlife corridors, more than 1,000 acres of contiguous area is enclosed with a single fence. A wildlife corridor shall be provided that meets all of the requirements, all of the following standards, which I did not list those since those aren't changing. Number 7 would add a new section dealing with construction. The SES project owner, operator, or applicant of the facility shall be responsible for the repair of all damages to county maintained or non-participating landowners, waterways, drainage ditches, field tiles, or any other infrastructures caused by the construction or maintenance of the project. Damages must be completely repaired to original or better condition and so as to not impede the flow of water. All repairs must be completed in a timely manner, and the SES project owner, operator, and/or applicant shall be responsible for loss or damage approximately resulting from its impairment of such drainage structures. All repairs to county-maintained drainage structures must be completed within 14 days. Number 8 is a new section dealing with county roads. The applicant for the CSES shall enter into a road use agreement with Clark County Commissioners for the use, repair, and improvement of county roads for the duration of the development, construction, operation, and maintenance of the SES. Item 9 would be a new section dealing with land coverage caps. No more than 4,000 acres of fenced area within Clark County can be approved for commercial SES special exception use. Land coverage cap shall be revisited by the Plan Commission after more than 3,000 acres have been developed for such use. Developed shall be defined as the final inspection has been completed. Item 10 would be creating new definitions for battery energy storage systems. The first is battery energy storage system tier 1, which is one or more devices, assemblies together capable of storing energy in order to supply electric energy at a future time, not to include a standalone 12-volt car battery or an electric motor vehicle, in which have an aggregate energy capacity less than or equal to 600 kilowatt hours. A battery energy storage system tier 2 is defined as one or more devices assembled together capable of storing energy in an order to supply electrical energy at a future time, not to include a standalone 12-volt car battery or electric motor vehicle in which have an aggregate energy capacity greater than 600 kilowatt hours. Number 11 would establish battery energy storage system tier 1 as a permitted accessory use in all zoning districts. Battery energy storage systems tier 2 is proposed to be as permitted primary and accessory use in the M3 district. And the tier 2 battery storage systems are proposed as a special exception as an accessory use within the AG district, and a special exception as a primary and or accessory use in the M1 and M2 districts, which are our industrial districts. The last item would create standards for battery energy storage standards for systems tier 2. The purpose of regulating certain battery energy storage system is to advance and protect the public health, safety, welfare, and quality of life within the county. No tier 2 battery energy storage systems cannot be located less than 1,320 feet from a residential dwelling. All tier 2 battery energy storage systems shall be installed and maintained in compliance with NFPA 1 Fire Code, NFPA 70 National Electric Code, NFPA 855 standard for the installation of stationary energy storage systems. And that is the extent of the changes.
Okay. No, wait a second, I'm talking to my attorney right now. That's what I was thinking. So we're gonna start with the first row. Ms. Basham? And please give your name and address.
For the, how many times? Sandy Basham, 15219 New Market Road, Marysville, Indiana. On April the 10th, this plan commission voted unanimously to require a 650-foot setback, which then went to the commissioners on May 9th and passed. On June 12th, the advisory committee was formed, and in September, Commissioner Glover stated to the News and Tribune that the committee's goal was, and the purpose was to propose recommendations to the Plan Commission for potential amendments to the UDO. The advisory committee was not about compromising. It was supposed to be providing research and recommendations. But since everybody wants to talk about compromising, let's do it. The landowners that signed leases had with the 250-foot setback from the dwelling was where they was originally at, and 150 from the property line. They're now suggesting a 300-foot setback from the dwelling for adjacent residents that have solar on 1 and 2 sides. That's 98% of the residents that are affected. They also propose that the setback from the property line be reduced by 50 foot. Therefore, they really gave up nothing. When we first came to the commissioners and this planning board, we asked for 1,000 foot from the dwelling. The plan commission and the commissioners both voted for 650 foot from the dwelling. The only reason we agreed to change anything was because we were told the 650 foot would not pass if we tried to keep it. Our recommendation was a huge sacrifice since 92% of the people surveyed said no to solar, period. So instead of splitting the numbers down the middle, maybe we should base our numbers off the materials and the presentations provided by those in the committee. Had we known that you were going to split the difference, we would have never suggested lowering the current 650 foot. I was on that subcommittee. I provided you with most of the material, and when I recently questioned you guys at the last meeting, not one of you had looked at what I sent. Jefferson,
That's not true. I haven't looked at what you sent.
I didn't ask you on that night.
Oh, okay.
No,
All right.
yeah, I did not. Thank you.
Did you have anything? Yeah. Okay, Christine?
Kristen Horsley, 2417 Mayhem Road. Did you know that there is a clause in the Bright Night contract that reads, landlord acknowledges aspects inherent to the operation of the solar energy facility may result in some nuisance, such as visual impacts, possible increased noise levels, possible glare, and other possible effects of electrical generation and transmission without potential interference with radio, television, mobile telephone, or other electrical devices. Nuisance in the legal context refers to any activity, condition, or thing that interferes with a person's right to use and enjoy their property. Each of the landowners here that signed a solar agreement agreed to this. The contract goes on to say, landlord understands and has been informed by leasee that the generating facility on the property may result in some nuisance, and hereby accepts such nuisance, and landlord waives its right to object to such nuisance, provided that the leasee complies with its obligations in the agreement. So, I guess this explains why the average distance from any solar array to a leaser is over 800 feet. I guess this explains why they want to utilize all the property they can around someone else's home and not their own. Were you, as board members, aware that this project would be a nuisance?
Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
I have these for them?
You can pass them out, or just put them down there and we can pass them down.
All right.
Save you the trouble.
Did you have anything?
Thank you.
Did you have anything?
Why, anything to say? Silliest question ever asked. James R. McClure Jr., 1006 Hazelwood Court, Clarksville, Indiana. I rise in opposition to these reductions in distance. The solar panels as a whole are dangerous objects with very serious long-term health consequences to the citizens of Clark County. And in general, their installation should be limited to locations far away from residences. We have a large amount of land where we could utilize for this purpose inside the existing River Ridge area, on top of buildings there, and in land that is currently not being used. We don't need to be consuming our valuable farmland for the installation of solar panels. I understand a lot of people are trying to make a lot of money off this, but we need to be looking at the future of our children and our children's children, and what may happen to the water supply and or food supply in this area if we allow this unrestricted usage and these significant reductions in these reasonable restrictions on where these solar panel objects may be placed. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree.
Okay. Kelly?
What's up? I was not gonna pass him down. Yeah, there, yeah. Kelly Curry, 4819 Salem, Millville Road. What I've given you, I'm glad to see the best has been addressed tonight.
I'm giving you the latest March 2024 APA on the best systems, maybe help you educate a little bit more on them. The thing I have to say about BESS, we've already got two, I know that. I know the utilities, pretty much, if they need them, they put them. But you can't control the siting of the BESS systems. You know, I kind of was trying to catch, and you did a fine thing with your microphone there, Eric. You were almost loud enough for me to hear, but, and I don't have what you all have to hear about the setbacks on the BESSes for the residences or businesses that would be surrounding the BESSes. But, take a look at it a little closer, and then of course we need to talk about decommissioning BESSes. I don't believe y'all addressed that. I think BESS needs to be addressed just a little bit further. Like I say, I could barely hear, you know. But as far as the setbacks go, you know, the subcommittee did what it did. I totally think I agreed with Ms. Basham 100% on the setbacks. I mean, also, the energy generated from this system, said, Andrew, you know, does a great job in the News and Tribune, says something about supplying, could supply electricity to 70,000 homes. But I've always said, you know, this electricity on the Duke line is gonna go to Meta. And as far as I'm concerned, Duke can go to North Carolina and get the trade-offs and the credits for Meta. We don't need it here in our area. You know, we don't. I think, thank you. I think we're shuffling up because I was on it.
Okay.
I was on it.
Is there any pro people? I'm sorry, I don't know your names. Do you wanna speak? Oh, he's, not him, the guy in the green shirt.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, my fault.
Would you like to speak? Ms. Vaughn?
Gonna let Greg and Matt kind of.
Greg, we want the pro, are you for or against?
Do I have to
Are you-
disclose that now?
Oh, well, I kind of wanted to get some of the others, go ahead, come on up.
Thank you. My name is Richard Bellows, 8515 Tafflinger Road, Nab, Indiana. Well, tell you guys, thanks for serving in this public position you're in. You're in a position to really take good information, decipher it, and make good decisions. I'm kind of walking into this, I think, kind of new. I had no idea that you'd already proposed some of these changes. And 2 or 3 years ago, or maybe even 3 or 4 years ago, when this company approached us, the Fellows Farms is several hundred acres up in northeastern Clark County. Had no idea it would get to this point. And I just thought it'd just go away. But anyhow, as we talk about making changes, when we purchased this ground, it was general ag ground, zoned that way. And you are to protect our zoned ground as general ag and not to allow a commercial field of these panels to come in. So I appreciate that you not consider any possible change that would make it easier for these California people to come in here and cause our community to have such division. I think that's one of the other things that the BZA is supposed to do. I don't know about the zoning board, whether you back that or not. But we're supposed to be friendly. We're supposed to be a community. But the longer that you let this go on and allow this discussion to go, the worse it's gonna be. So I beg you to do anything to vote no change that would allow these people to come into our community. There's several things I want to talk about. I have no idea what you've heard before. It's the reason I kind of wanted to go first. But don't consider any special exemption for solar that will cause this tension to continue here in our communities. Farming is not made up of solar, it is food and fiber production.
Sir, your time's up. Thank you.
Jefferson County allows everybody ride his feet as long as they want, as many as they want, so.
Well, we're in Clark County.
Well,
so-
okay.
Oh, and it's okay. Mr. Hostetler?
Good evening. Greg Hostetler, 9203 Westport Road, Marysville. Let me just give you a different perspective from what you heard already tonight.
Okay, you're gonna have to speak in the mic.
Okay. Can we start? Start over?
Can you scoot up?
Yeah.
I don't know why, I could hear the previous fellow.
Start his time.
Yeah,
Okay, can we start over on time?
start his time over.
Yeah. Greg Hostetler, 9203 Westport Road. Planning Board, Council, thank you for your time this evening. I'm here to give you a different perspective on thoughts and representations on behalf of our pro-solar constituents for the North Flag Solar Project. In May of this year, the Solar Committee Task Force was formed to find a compromise predominantly around the setbacks. The setbacks have had a wide range of discussions from 150 feet up to 1,000 feet, and currently it's 650. The setback simply does not work at 650. It's just not a practical business solution. Tonight, there are proposed amendments with a long list of changes requested by the opposition. The proposed guidelines on the table tonight should be the go-forward strategy, which is the compromise of a 400-foot setback from the residential dwelling. This all came from the report out by Commissioner Glover that each side had negotiated to an impasse on the setbacks. The pro-green side, we suggested 300 during our committee. The red anti side went to 500. In the committee, as designed, it became an impasse. It was brought here. Pro 300, anti 500. At last month's planning meeting, the committee board representation here proposed the compromise to split down the middle, which is very reasonable, at 400-foot setbacks. The suggestion and proposal before you is a give and take approach, which was the sole purpose of the committee in the first place. This distance of 400 feet is over a football field long, or 30 to 40-story building. This amendment of 400-foot setback should be approved as is and move forward for commissioner votes. 2 sides at 425, 3 sides at 625, 4 sides at 700. That's reasonable. Respectfully, do not make these setbacks any worse than the 400 feet. We recommend moving to the commissioner's vote as shown in the proposed amendments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't know your names. Anyone else on that second row that wants to speak? No? Okay, then we're gonna, who?
Dan Drill.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Okay, Mr. Cristiani, would you like to speak? No? I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Mark.
Mark?
Mark Basham, 976 Cottonwood Drive, Clarksville, Indiana. And I've got some questions just different than have been asked so far. Christie was telling about quality of life. Is there a plan for this committee to make amends to people for their quality of life loss after this is passed? Because it's pretty clear y'all gonna pass it, looks like to me, no doubt. How much money yearly is gonna be made by this? Some of it should go to these people whose life is gonna be screwed up. Are their property taxes gonna go down? Are they gonna be wiped out completely because they're gonna devalue their property? And is there a plan to reclaim the land after this hailstorm or tornado, and who's gonna pay for that? Are the tax people gonna have to pay to reclaim this? That's all I really wanna know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to speak? No, she's hiding her eyes, so.
No.
Okay.
I'm just rethinking on my voting, but. Yeah, that's in the cities.
Hello, my name is Kelly Stamper and I live at 1212 Highway 160, Charlestown. Since Christine, after she talked, we now know this project will be a nuisance. It makes our current solar ordinance that requires 650 feet, which was voted on, sound a lot more reasonable and not unreasonable. Our current ordinance will protect the adjacent residents from this nuisance, so let's keep it in place, the 650-foot setback. We have around 250 residents that this project could possibly impact adversely. And they deserve to enjoy their property just as much as the landowners who have signed up for solar. Several counties within the state have recently amended their ordinances to better protect adjacent landowners. Look at Shelby County, Indiana, and Christine, I believe, handed out their current UDO. They have a solar facility under construction, and they have amended their ordinance twice already. They started with 300 feet from the dwelling. They amended that shortly after construction started, and they saw what the impact was, and they upped that to 660 feet from the dwelling. And as of last week, it's now 660 feet from the property line. Unfortunately, there are several people who have had their lives forever changed, all because the ordinance was not in place to protect them.
Time. Thank you.
I do have a handout I'd like to give you all, since we've not had the opportunity to discuss property value. It's a new study we found.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't see if there's anyone else on that row. Oh, do you want to speak?
No, thank you.
No, okay. Max, anyone on that row want to speak?
Max Zimmerman, 6616 Mill Road. And where do we start? Like Bart said, he's listened to 14 hours of public hearing testimony. And with the 3 people on this side, 3 people on this side, we done those committees. We've been through a lot. Like Greg said earlier, I believe what we have seen tonight is a compromise between everybody. I know they still seem like when we worked on things that they kept on moving goalposts on us. So we knew the setbacks will be the finest draw that brought the camel's back, and it has. So hopefully, with the way things are written, we can get to a closing tonight and maybe have something done. But what I want to recognize is all the different farm families that are here tonight. There's 27 families that are signed up in the Bright Night Project, and I think there's 28 in the Orion Project. You got the Zimmerman family, the Hostetler family, the Johnson Miles family, the Vaughn family, the Baird family, the Herod family, the Campbell family, the Mullins family, the Skeens family, the Bays family. And they all got different circumstances, though, where this will be good for their families, for themselves, and for their families down the road. Some of the comment that, like Christine queried about our contract, yes, just in business world today, you get a contract, you never sign a contract that somebody else gives you because it's written for their way. So you give it to the attorney to redline it. So I'm not saying that that's not in my contract, but there's a lot of things that are changing my contract that, they're picking up on that they wouldn't agree with. So, I just want to clear that up. I know, like Sandy said, 92% of their survey said they didn't want solar at all. Well, it was a one-sided survey where it was their side of people doing all the answering the questions, and what our side, because we weren't on Facebook doing any type of campaign or anything. They were, we not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else in that row that would like to speak? No? Okay, so I'm trying to keep track. If I skip a row, somebody please let me know, but the gentleman behind Mr. Cristiani.
My name's Laverne Wiki, and
can you say that again?
my name's Laverne Wiki. I live at 2030 South County Road, 300 East, North Vernon, Indiana. I own 2 properties in Clark County, and me and my wife, and I have a baby. We're gonna build off Gravy Road. And I guess what I'd be concerned with that I don't think anybody's mentioned would be just, as far as construction wise, there is gonna be a lot of big equipment and possibly, I just worry about safety of children, like being so close to our homes. So I would ask that you guys would at least consider that, as far as a lot going on that close to our houses. I would like to see it a little bit further away. And then also, I'm concerned about drainage issues as far as pushing a lot of, could possibly affect waterways, and also if our properties do get damaged, which being that close, they probably will, some of them, can we even be guaranteed that's gonna get fixed like in a reasonable amount of time, or is it just gonna, kind of get pushed on the back burner and stuff? But that's all I really have, is just the safety of our kids, like big equipment being that close, and kids are kids. I mean, we can say there's gonna be fences there, but they do find ways to, practically get into that stuff. So I just want to point out a few things like that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in that row, because I can't see? Just-
Hi, Anita Tillett, 9102 Zimmerman Road, Marysville, Indiana. What I'd like to say is short and sweet. You all have heard it all. I know you have. But let's not forget that what you got to decide tonight is not only for the facility that Bright Night is looking to build, but also for future projects that could possibly come. Orion already has leases with Clark County landowners. As we know, they have a plan as well. Over 250 residents could be adversely affected by the Bright Night project alone, so how many more will the Orion project affect? We deserve and have the right to use and enjoy our property just as much as they have the right to make money from theirs. Of course, since the majority of the lessees won't have solar in their backyard, the nuisance won't bother them. So there again, you go with here we go, repeating, sorry, but the setbacks, that comes back to that. If they're not gonna have them next to them, what makes them think that we want them next to us? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone sitting next to you? I mean, I see Mr. Phil.
650 feet.
Okay. That was the third row. Anyone in the fourth row want to speak?
Dr. Ryan Harold, 10016 Zollman Road, Marysville, Indiana. My wife Candace and I live out off Zollman Road. I spoke earlier this year about the greater good of the solar project. The greater good being over $100 million in tax revenue over the life of the project, 70,000 residents electricity, safe, reliable electricity, and yes, safe, reliable. And as Purdue University has came out with studies in talking about Senate Bill 411, signify the community as solar ready. Indiana Code 8142 sets what is the standard, and the standard for setback for a dwelling is 250 foot. The standard for the state of Indiana. My question for the commission, why would we choose to be much more restrictive than what the state of Indiana has set as the standard? Recently, a farm down the road from us, 200 plus acres, has been sold. Lanes are going in, subdivisions going up. Do I love it? No. Do I say anything? Absolutely not. Why? Because it's not my property. It's not my land, If we are going to be restrictive of companies, and we're only going to pick and choose which companies to be restrictive to in Clark County, then that's not, I think, the message that we want to send to the rest of the residents, to our state, You know, I'm proud to be an American, and I'm proud that we have freedom to do as we will with our property. Therefore, I'm asking the Planning Commission to put this to rest tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in row 4? Okay, you're gonna have to tell me it, you don't complain later if I miss you, because I'm trying to count. Okay, so are we on the 4th row over here? Or 5th row? I think we're on the 4th row. Who wants to speak on the 4th row? Would you like to speak, sir? Anybody? No? Okay, 5th row? Okay. I'm trying to count, make sure I'm not missing anybody.
Hi, my address is 3751 West Marble Hill Road. Name? Kevin Miles. Am I good to go?
Yeah.
Okay. So my name's Kevin Miles. I am the wife of a 4th generation farmer, and I am hoping that I'm raising a 5th generation farmer. With that being said, that is in our roots, in our grains. With these solar farms going in, that is taking property value away from us. That is allowing farmers to not be able to continue to purchase farm ground and to continue farming. The American farmer is literally 1% of the United States. That is what we have to provide you food to eat and your clothes that you wear every single day. So if you continue to allow solar panels to come in and take these agricultural grounds that are farming and providing you food and comfort for your homes, then what are we gonna have one day? We're gonna have to be getting our food imported from other countries, and that's just going to cause a lifetime and long-term effect throughout the country and for everyone. So I just ask that you guys really take it into consideration, passing these solar farms in Clark County. That's awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Janine Wiley. I live at 18606 Clapp Road, Otisco, Indiana. I would like to start out by saying that you can't farm solar, or as the other side would say, harvesting the sun. The fact is, the sun helps us grow crops such as corn, soybeans, wheat, and hay, so we can help feed the world. My husband and I farm in Marysville, Otisco area, and some other Scott County. This is how we make our living. Unlike most of the pro-solar people who are just landlords that has had their farms passed down from generation to the next and lease it out to real farmers. Some of these landlords don't even live in the state of Indiana or even plan on putting the solar panels in their own backyard. I know that there is at least 2 full-time farmers that are for solar, but I really don't understand why. My husband grew up around a lot of these landlords' grandparents, dads, and he can't believe that they would have wanted their family farms to be that they worked so hard for, so that they could pass it down to the next generation. As the board, I would hope that you would take the time on the changes of the UDO. These changes are not just for a couple of years. As the board, you need to look at the big picture on down the road. Please look at and learn from these other counties that are just now realizing what they should have done. If you want to see what solar and wind looks like, go to Randolph County. It will make you sick. When the tornado went through there in March of this year, it sent debris everywhere, including some of the solar panels.
Your time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in that row that would like to speak? No, because I can't see y'all. So there's no one. I'm going to go to the other side. Is that it? Are we on the fourth or fifth row over here. Someone just show me. Right there, okay. 3, 4, 5. We're on the fifth row on this side.
Okay. I was trying to talk him into it, but he's saying it's my job. Okay. That's
Hi, Barbara Anderson. I live at 827 East Maple Street in Jeffersonville, and I work countywide and have all my life. I started my career as a solar energy planner, and that's where it started for me 40 years ago. So it's not a new discussion, solar power, and we're needed. And the farming, to me, makes perfect sense, simply because it does not damage the soil. There's been lots of research. I contacted Purdue University, and I also contacted universities in New York and in Rhode Island and in Connecticut, and they all agree that erosion happens, but there is nothing that doesn't happen with crops. So when the panels go up and the production is done, we've created a whole new industry in this community. It's not anything negative. And farming is, how do I say this tactfully? Lots of farmers used to exist here, and now we have a few farms. And I know because my family is one of them. And one of the things that I do know is that if we don't branch out and create new revenues for our county, our schools will hurt, our roads will hurt. There's a bigger picture here than just whether you want to be farmed or not. And the bigger picture would say that this is a wise move. We are creating a way to create revenue and to build comradeship. It's going to be a painful process, that's obvious from what we've gone through already. But I do think that if we just stop a little and look at the facts, the very sun that they will be storing is the same sun that feeds the crops that the farmers use. So if it doesn't poison them, it's not going to poison people if they use it in their solar panels. I think that sometimes clear heads need to prevail. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else in sitting in that role that would like to speak? No? Okay, well then I'm going to go behind you. 1, 2, 3, 4. That row 6, the 6th row. Is there anyone over here in the 6th row? Okay.
My name is Shelley Blankenbaker. I live at 2518 Hillbottom Road, Neb, Indiana. What I'd like to bring to the table tonight is just some stats from other counties in Indiana and what's currently going on with them. I think that's a pretty good thumbnail, a picture to look and see as an example. Delaware County, they are currently under a moratorium until March of 2025. In April, Boone County, Indiana placed a moratorium on solar until 2026. And in October, Fulton County, Indiana revised their ordinance. And they're lucky enough to have revised it to 1,000-foot setback from property line. And if you guys will research the counties, you're gonna find that a lot of these counties are changing these setbacks to be from property line and property line only. Makes it a whole lot simpler and a whole lot easier to understand. So White County, Franklin County, they have a 650-foot setback after having a 6-month moratorium. White County approved an industrial solar facility with their new setback restrictions of 500 feet from property line. Got an update, the subcommittee was presented with proof of actual visits to solar facilities that supported the 650-foot setback. Research shows that several counties have made mistakes in their initial setback numbers, and they are now, after 1 or 2 or even 3 amendments, they've gone to the 650 or more for residents in their counties. So I think that's something for you guys to consider. You know, other counties have tried this, they found that it doesn't work at the more minimum amount, and they're pushing it back farther. I'd also like to state that a company that is selling this project, the company that has written the contract, when they say their project is a nuisance in their contract, I think you can probably take it at their word that it's a nuisance. I would ask for you guys to consider that on behalf of the people who are just trying to live in the community. I do have a handout.
Okay, thank you, you just started over there.
Well, did you hand out Shelby?
No.
Okay, all right, this is Shelby County, their new UDOs. There you go, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in that row that wanted to speak? No? Okay, then I'm gonna go to the other side. Row, thank you.
Hi, my name is Julie Skeens Morris. I live at 7915 Westport Road. The zip code there is Charlestown. I've lived there my entire life. My family has lived in Clark County for more than 200 years. My family's lived off of Westport Road or on Westport Road for more than 100 years. I have deep roots in this community, and I anticipate that my children and my stepchildren will continue to do so. Our family has spent generations investing in this community, in our farms, in our families, and in the future. My father specifically told me many times when I was young that he did not want for me or my sibling to be farmers. He wanted us to do better and have easier lives. And that's what I see in this project. I see better income for us. I see better results for our farms. I see better income and results for our communities. I see a better tax base and a better future. I have paid property taxes on my farm for decades at this point, and I feel that I should have to say on what happens on my own property. I realize that there are reasonable restrictions that county government and state government and so on can make, but I expect those to be reasonable restrictions, and I would appreciate that. I feel like the opposing side has a lot of very passionate arguments, some of which are based in their own opinions and fact, but many of which are passionate and only passionate. I think that if you all look at hard facts, the science, and the economy, that you will see that this is a beneficial project for our community, and that the landowners should have the decision-making authority over their own land. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and thanks again for being part of this commission. My name is David Taylor. I'm from Henryville. I wear two hats. I am a farmer. I have a dairy, a drip dairy, at 6,000 Henryville Otisco Road. And so I am a farmer. I'm also a professor at IU Southeast. This is, of course, my opinions here, not theirs, but I'm a professor of biology and sustainability and regeneration. As a farmer, I support this. I've had solar on my farm since the Henryville tornado in 2012. And I'm just very surprised that I wouldn't be able to continue to grow that as a farmer, as a way for actually decreasing the cost for the farm. A reminder is farmers are not rich. So the recent census for agriculture suggests that only 16% of the farms in Indiana make more than $100,000. This is an opportunity for farmers to maintain their fields and still have them for the future and having a secure income. Others have mentioned this as well. The other thing is I think we should look at a little broader view. What it's going to be like in 30 years. We're looking at increasing populations here. In 30 years, this commission could have the decommissioning of this solar area and have thousands of acres of green space. That green space could go back to farming. That green space may be currently farmed because there are more and more techniques allowing you to do farming under solar panels. But more importantly, that green space could be parks and other things that would help future generations of our county here. So in conclusion, really, I think it's really important to look at the positives, which is increasing our tax base, looking at incomes for farms that they don't have, and then the potential in 30 years that we'll have this land that could be used in ways that we may not imagine at the current time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sophia Skeens, and I live at 6915 Matt Vardy's Road, Boston, Kentucky. My sister spoke just a second ago, and I own adjoining property next to her. And what she said about investing for our family's future, while I might not live here, I also cannot have kids, so my farm will go to my nephew when I die. So, and I'm still investing in the future of this community, even though I don't live here. What they've said about reading the contract, I don't know which contract they read, but mine said that there's a possibility, that they could mention that that grazing animals around the solar panels is a possibility. So it's not just a bunch of panels, it could also be pasture as well. So this is not just, it's still a farm. So it's a very well shaded farm if it ends up being feasible, but the panels are supposed to go in at 12 feet in the air. That gives plenty of room for livestock to graze underneath. So when they are thinking of being just panels, it's actually just really well shaded pasture that produces electricity. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in that row who wants to speak? Okay. No. Anybody in that? Nobody?
Yes, my name is Joshua Mullins. I live at 7920 Henderson Road, Marysville, Indiana, 47141. I agree with a lot of the points, the lesser setbacks. I can't tell the farmer that's 50 foot from my house to stop spraying his crop we know that's poison. So, I understand all these concerns. I live in the creek, or live right beside of a creek. My boys play in that creek. I played in that creek when I was a kid. And I know for me personally, this would help me keep a barn from falling over. It would help me maintain a 50-year-old farm that my retired mother lives on. And I have a house. I can't maintain all this, with just our income. We have children. The farm, I don't think people understand. I've got 61 tillable acres, and it barely pays the taxes and the insurance on that place. So any upkeep's out of my pocket. I'm not making money on anything. I do it because I love the place, I love the animals, I love the community, being out in nature, and I'd a lot rather see goats under solar panels than subdivisions, and that's what's coming if we don't stop it. And this is one way to stop it. Stop at least a few thousand acres of it. And like he said, later we can decide, but I work at Louisville MSD, and believe me, it does not stop. They just take over farm after farm after farm. And that's pretty much all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, was that the last, one more? Okay.
Hello, my name is Zach Silverstein, 9603 Dina Bauer Drive, Marysville. The biggest thing I want to talk about is devaluation of residential property. This area of rural Clark County has multiple small residential properties that will see dramatic devaluation if local government doesn't ensure proper setbacks and screening. This was very evident by information shared from Mary Clay's appraisal report Thursday at the Jefferson County BZA, in which I spoke. I emailed this information to Connie Sellers. It was about 250-page PDF file. This appraiser, Mary Clay, saw as much as 25 to 30% loss in specific valuation on homes around solar. A lot of the solar appraisal reports aren't using honest comparisons or not directly looking at large-scale industrial solar in more populated areas like New Washington or NAB. To me, the setback should be 1,000 feet from homes. Protect these smaller residential properties. Landscape screening should be a half mile from these homes. 1,000 acres without considering wildlife effects, that's outrageous. The negatively affecting of neighboring farmers, the wildlife will actually impact their crop production because of it. But no, you guys would consider reducing these actual setbacks from actually increasing them and actually protecting the small people. So please reconsider how these regulations will affect the community as a whole and the smaller landowners. Because 133-yard setback from a home is outrageous. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Mary Clay, she's from Kentucky. She did an unbelievable study on property values. Nobody ever talks about it here. I'm so glad they got it. Because we got it on film.
My name's Ken Corder, 8004 Brooks Road in Charlestown. I read a book several years ago when I was a young man by Harry Cottle. He's a young attorney in Letcher County in eastern Kentucky. And he talked about how companies came in and partnered with developers, bankers, and local politicians and managed to, over 200 years, basically destroy much of Appalachia by denuding it of wood and then coming in and taking the coal from under the landowners who were not suspecting what was going on. Those boondoggles continue every generation. It doesn't just happen in Appalachia. Community to community to community. Big companies come in, they get local allies, they partner with local government and federal government subsidies, and they destroy the land, they destroy the wildlife, and they destroy the quality of life of the people there. And then they leave, and they're gone. They've made their money, they've made their short-term gains. That never stops. And it has continued here with this cycle that we've seen in the last several months. You have an opportunity to stop that repeated cycle just this one time here in Clark County. You're going to go into northern Clark County and your children and your grandchildren, and they're going to see a sea of solar panels, and they're going to be all destroyed. The wildlife's not going to be there. The fences are going to be trashy. The screening's not going to be good. We know how this works. We've seen this repeated over and over. But you have a chance to be able to speak to your grandchildren, and they can speak to their grandchildren and say, you know what? My parent or my grandparent or great-grandparent was on that council, and they caused this to happen. Or they can say, they stood up and said no to solar, and you have all of this heritage of this beautiful land and this landscape and the wildlife. You have a decision to make, and I hope you're on the right side of history.
He's in the right.
Okay.
We good?
Yeah, I was looking for you, actually.
Thank you, Commission. I'm Ian Evans. You need my address if I'm from out of town?
Yes.
Okay. 11801 Domain Boulevard, Austin, Texas, 78758. First of all, I want to make pretty clear, I don't have a dog in the fight for the solar development. I'm actually extremely thankful that I picked up a blue shirt this morning. I didn't know there was going to be colors, but I'm glad I chose blue. I work for IPA Power. We're headquartered in Austin, Texas. We specialize in developing and operating standalone battery energy storage facilities. I spoke with Eric, and I circulated some potential changes to the battery storage specific part of the ordinance. For a little bit of background, you can build energy storage or battery energy storage a couple ways. The two main ones are hybrid, which is paired with some other energy generation, solar, something like that, and then there's standalone, which is what we specialize in. I want to make very clear that the standalone battery energy storage facility is only about 10 to 20 acres and represents a very similar investment dollar amount as a solar project or some energy generation project at a fraction of the acres that are required. So we feel like it's a good investment in the community for a very low impact, and we have two specific changes that we would request in order to do that, and they have to do with the setback language as well as the allowance of it as a primary use under ag. I should also mention that we have two other standalone projects, one in Jefferson County, one in Decatur County, both of which have been fully approved locally and by the state, and we're seeking to do that here as well. As far as the specific changes go, I'm going to defer to our attorney, Alex, who's back right here behind me, and he'll talk about the changes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting.
We also have actual letters from the property owners that would be affected by this if I could approach. Just circulate these. So, yeah, the difference between what we're talking about with the battery storage and the solar couldn't be more stark. And I think it's important for commissioners to understand that they shouldn't be lumped together because they are distinct, and these distinct uses should be treated differently. The ordinance should provide a pathway for all forms of battery storage projects, and those two specific problems that Ian was mentioning, the first being with the 1,320-foot setback requirement. We believe that just like with, on my paper notes, but there was waiver language in the very first ordinance that you mentioned. We suggest that a waiver is appropriate in this circumstance as well. Any property owner affected by a setback here could waive it just like they would with the solar array, and no one else would be affected. So I can't really think of a good reason why that shouldn't be allowed. So we're requesting a waiver, and you can just copy and paste the language from that other waiver language you've got. But the other one is that the tier 2 battery project should be a primary and or second or accessory use in ag as well as M1 and M2. The primary use is already listed in the ag. They involve the solar power generation and stuff like that. So what we're suggesting is that since it is a standalone function, it should be treated differently, and it should be its own use listed in those. And so what we're requesting is that you actually withhold voting on those portions of the proposed amendments until there are changes made that reflect that. Thank you.
Thank you.
They just wait around their way right on in Dark County. Yeah, right.
Richard Maruccio, 19109 Marysville Dam Road, Marysville, Indiana, 47141. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you to not reduce the setbacks for all of the reasons that everyone else has already given. In addition, I think there should be some stipulation where any parcel that is denied a special use permit or exception, whatever the thing is to put solar on ag, cannot reapply for a period of time. I think that should be added. Just seems reasonable that we don't have to come back every couple of months to keep fighting the same fight.
I think that's already.
Yeah, right now they've got a 1 year time limit.
Okay. I didn't see that. Okay.
It's just in our regular ordinance.
All right.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, I would like larger setbacks, not smaller setbacks. I think that the committee that was put together was kind of, the people that profit from it were overrepresented because a solar company was involved in advisement. Whereas the people that are impacted by it negatively kind of underrepresented and attempted to compromise. However, their compromise was seen as not good enough, and we came out with this, but just, you know, please maintain what you got or increase it even. The battery guy, we already heard from a different lawyer of fires, the chemical fires, you know, please don't put his stuff out. I'll concede the rest of my time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Officer Mobley, do you have anything to say?
Good job, County Chair.
Jeff Bates wanted to speak. Did I see his hand go up?
No? Okay, so that concludes our public comment. From now on, we are going to be discussing this among ourselves up here, that we do not interrupt us, do not make comments to us, do not raise your hand and say you have something to say, because you will not be addressed, okay? We have not discussed this. You might think that we call each other on the phone and we talk about this, and we do not. So we might make comments that we change our mind on, or it's a conversation just like they have in their committee meetings. So just let us do what we need to do. So anyway, let's go back to the first.
Thank you.
Okay.
Amy, one thing that the board is supposed to consider on these issues this evening is a comprehensive plan. Is there any language in the comprehensive plan?
Can you use your microphone, please? I'm sorry.
Oh, they can't hear you.
My question to Amy
Thank you.
was there anything in the comprehensive plan that's relevant for what the board is considering?
And no, there is not, so it doesn't directly address solar. And so, again, it's more best practices in development in general in terms of areas, uses, farmland, anything of that nature, but not directly to solar, so.
And I'm gonna make a comment, because I heard it tonight from some people, and I've heard it in the past. We are not here to be for solar or against solar. That's not what this board does. That's what the BZA will take care of. We are here to either strengthen or weaken the UDO. That's not being for solar, it's not being against solar. As I have stated many times, we didn't even have anything in our UDO until 2023 about solar, because the solar companies didn't come to us and tell us that they were getting leases from people. We did not know. If Amy had not told us that we needed to get this in the Unified Development Ordinance, it would not have happened, and they would have been allowed by right to come in and just start building. You wouldn't have been here, they wouldn't have come before us, they would have just gone to the director and gotten their permits. So because it was put on in 2023 as a special exception, and we allowed them, that way you all got your voice, you were able to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals, you were able to come before the Planning Commission. Otherwise, there would have been no public comment. And we as commissioners, we couldn't have stopped it. So I just want you to know that. So we are not for solar, not against solar. We are just making recommendations to hopefully do what is best for the citizens of Clark County. So with that being stated, do we want to start at the beginning?
I have a question. Eric, you mentioned possibly presenting these individually. Is that something we're going to talk about here, or is tonight it has to be the whole thing?
No, I mean, it's purely at your discretion.
Okay.
We have the hearing. You can pass along what you feel is ready to go, or you can just table the other items for further discussion at a later date.
Okay, let's just start with number one and go through them. The first one is the power and communication lines. Does anybody have a problem with that? I think that we'd all agreed to that. Okay. The next one is the development standards, and it's the setback and locations. The first one was the non-participating landowner property line. This one is gonna be the one where we need to discuss.
Sure, yeah.
Okay?
I'll go ahead and tear the Band-Aid off. You know, first of all, I want to thank everybody for your comments. It doesn't go unnoticed, and it's valuable. You know, to Connie's point, this isn't about us being for or against. It's about us considering, you know, the impact to our community, to the county, for years and years to come. You know, I've done, as all of us I'm sure have, invested tremendous amount of time, free time, investigating solar. I work for a global energy company, and I'm in the lubricants division, but we have a renewables division that is under the same parent company. So I got an opportunity to reach out to some of those people and just get insights and opinion, just educate myself on the process of solar. And also looking at what's happening in our community, the state of Indiana, throughout the state, projects that are underway, counties, you know, there's a lot of variance in what counties are doing in their UDOs. Based on, and again, this is my opinion, as it relates to setbacks. I don't think the setbacks as they exist in our UDO today, I think you'll hear a different story, but I don't think it's going to stop development of solar. My personal opinion is certainly it's going to impact the layout of those proposals. It's going to require, you know, those companies to maybe revise their business plans. But I don't think it makes the projects unviable. That's my opinion. And I'm opposed to any changes to Section 2 as written. Opposed to existing UDO changes. I don't support the changes as outlined here for Section 2.
So you're saying leave the 150-foot setback from property line?
You're right.
And leave the 650-foot setback from residential dwelling?
Agree.
Okay.
Well, yeah, concur.
So the 650 or 650 feet?
I'm just one guy here, but that's.
Well,
where-
this is, because
So that's
what we're
where I'm
looking
at.
at, what
I
we're
mean,
looking at, I just don't want to be confused.
Sure.
What
sure.
we're looking at is 400 feet.
Right.
No,
For one.
no, he's
For
saying
one.
what's in the current UDO.
Right.
Oh, our current,
This-
okay,
this
see,
is
I'm
a-
not, I'm
this is
looking
a-
at the,
Yeah, this is a proposed change,
okay, gotcha.
and I'm opposed to.
You're
this
opposed to
pro-
this change?
I'm opposed to Section
Okay.
2
All
as a
right.
proposed change.
Okay.
I'm in agreement.
Okay.
Leaving the 150-foot setback from property line and the 650-foot existing setback from residential dwelling.
About Section 4, that's a new that's a clarification that.
Section 4B, yes, the 625 feet.
No, Section 4, it's about the flood hazard.
It's just defining
Oh.
floodplain, floodway, and wetland as IDNR or Article.
I'm not opposed to that.
Okay. Anyone else? Do we want, would it be easier to vote on these sections as we go, where there's not any?
Yeah, I want the board to understand what they're passing or not.
Because we're doing these in separate resolutions.
Right.
Right, so, C, power and communication lines, that's its own separate resolution, right? So that way we don't have to keep going back and forth.
I would suggest we vote on
As we go.
number 1.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Do I have a motion to vote? This is just number 1 on the power and communication lines, because these are gonna be presented to the commissioners in separate resolutions, so that we can not have to redo the whole thing again. Okay? Do I have a motion? This is something I think we all agreed on.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve item number 1 under PC 2024-PC1, item 1 only.
I haven't seconded that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the amendment 1 under section C, 1 and 2. Are there any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so that one's done, so we won't have to go back to that. Okay, so now we're on the development standards, commercial SES, setbacks and location. Does anybody else have any comments on that? No? Dave, do you have anything? We're keeping it at they want to keep it at 625. They're not doing this. They're keeping
And the way
keeping
I
it as
650.
Or 650, 650, sorry.
The only thing that's changed in this section will be item 4.
The location section, which is on the page.
These are already approved too.
Right, so it's already, so the only thing we're changing here is section 4. And that's just the wetlands and all that. So do I have a motion here?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
Motion to
Yeah.
only include the amendment of number 4 location.
Yes.
I was gonna
Yes.
say, yeah.
Be super clear.
Okay. Is there a second?
I will second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the location under Amendment 2, and that is just the commercial SES cannot be located within a flood hazard area identified by INDNR, wetland or waterway regulated by the Indiana Natural Resource, I guess that's what that is. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay,
Excuse me, to be clear here on what you're voting, when you're voting to approve, you're sending it to the commissioners with a
Right.
favorable recommendation. If you vote
Right.
to deny, then you're actually sending it with an unfavorable recommendation.
Right. So this was
Right.
specific to section 4.
yes, this is only for section 4.
Item
You struck everything about setbacks out of the proposed.
So the commissioners have already approved the rest of this section.
Right, we're only doing section 4, everything else will stay,
Stay the same.
okay?
But the rest of section 2, you're passing it to the commissioners with an unfavorable recommendation.
No,
No.
we're not changing it.
I was gonna just strike that from the.
We're not changing
That
it.
won't go forward, right?
We're not passing it
No,
along.
we're only passing 4,
Oh, okay.
okay? Number 3, amend subsection, solar section, the commercial subsection development standards by adding a new subsection. This is just the substations and inverters. Setbacks from substation to any non-participating residential dwelling shall be a minimum of 1,250 feet. Setbacks from inverters to any non-participating dwelling shall be 625 feet from any non-participating residential dwelling. These setbacks may be reduced by the BZA based upon site conditions or other factors which may include a signed recorded agreement with the property owner or owners of a parcel indicating a reduction is acceptable. Questions, comments? Did we have setbacks in the previous, in the current one?
No, this is all new.
This is on the,
It would have just been under the regular setbacks.
I would
of the
like to
system
see
itself.
this added.
I'll make a favorable recommendation to the commissioners to have this added to the current UDO.
I would request the 625 for inverters, amend to 650 to match what we currently have published as setbacks for the totality of the project.
I see what you're saying.
Okay?
Right?
Yes.
So is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to accept amend number 3C, solar energy systems. The only difference is instead of being 625, it's gonna be 650, 650 feet from any non-participating residential dwelling. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, screening.
That's another one, we changed the 625 to 650. Is that, would that be the same as what we just talked about?
This section is really kind of negated by the 650-foot setback, right?
You're correct.
So this,
So it's saying unless it's 625 feet or more, then it's more than you don't do screen.
Right.
If you're not allowing them.
To be 650, so it might be.
Now, the only thing it might protect is residentially zoned parcels and residentially platted parcels, because your setback for 650 is pretty well around.
so.
It would protect your residentially zoned and residentially platted, but it wouldn't do anything for.
Also 150-foot property setbacks, it could be an impact there, right?
No, because they're gonna have unless it's again residentially zoned or residentially platted without a house.
This would impact, say that your property line is already 600 feet from your home, and they have to set back 150 feet from the property line, as it's currently written, right? So could this still come into play in those circumstances where you're further than the 650 from the dwelling, obviously, but you're within 150 feet of a property line? Is that, because this,
So, this is reading, it's from the dwelling, or it's from the parcel if it's residentially zoned or platted without a dwelling. Like, that's the only place it would, I think, protect, right? Eric, is that how you're reading it too?
yes.
I mean, it's only gonna protect, it would protect the residentially zoned parcels that don't have a house and residentially platted parcels which don't have a house yet. Does that make sense? Which is gonna be pretty, I mean, I don't.
You have a subdivision next door and that would protect them.
Yeah, if it's not
Developed.
built yet, but only platted. Because if not, you're already making it be 650 feet away now, so it's.
Do you have any more questions? Are you good, Larry?
Yeah.
I was waiting on you, I thought.
I'm sorry.
Did you have anything else to add? I thought you were reading.
Reading
Okay.
down through the rest of the section.
Okay, so then the rest says,
So I just want to, and it talks about amend subsection C, SES commercial subsection 2, development standards. Then it says commercial SES by deleting subsection B and replacing with the following. So I don't know what was in subsection B that we would be deleting. Or that would stay in place. It's already there, right?
I think it was a decision that we made at the last meeting, and then he just gave us what the changes that we suggested.
I mean, am I correct, Eric? The highlighted portions are the
Right,
additions?
that's what I was just confirming here,
Right.
you know.
So the highlights are
portions are what was being added, it was just easier to replace the whole section. With those additions, but I mean.
Okay. But this is subsection B.
It's correct today, it just has this paragraph and so I added a link to that.
Okay, so are we ready to go on to the next highlighted section?
So you're not
This is
doing anything
in,
on
this
this
is
one?
in B as well, and it is the screening may include continuous vegetation, berms, and/or berms that adequately screens the view of the solar panels and accessory equipment as outlined below. Fencing is not permitted screening. The BZA shall have the discretion to reduce or waive the above screening standards when existing vegetation on the commercial SES property is determined to provide an acceptable screen, such as existing forestry or trees or whatever. And this vegetation will be maintained in a manner consistent with the intent of this section. All screening shall comply with all standards of the UDO, okay? Any questions about that?
Not me.
No, anybody? Okay. 1, a landscape plan shall be submitted that identifies the type and extent of proposed buffer and screening, vegetation, or another type of buffer can be proposed if it fully screens the facility year-round and is approved as part of that special exception. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. Number 4, landscape material must consist of evergreen trees that are included on Indiana's DNR current tree species information list and are at least 5 feet tall at the time of planting and reach a mature height of at least 15 feet. All trees shall be arranged utilizing a triangular spacing pattern, which just means staggered, with spacing that does not exceed 10 feet between centers unless approved by the administrator based on the anticipated tree width at maturity. The effectiveness of screening must be maintained at all times as the plants mature. Does everyone agree with that? Okay, good. Shall we take a vote on this? Someone want to make a motion? Are you changing anything? I said they agreed to it, so.
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve PC 2024-PC1, Section 4.
Wally, so.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, to accept the changes to section 4. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
There's one below that.
Oh, is there one below? Oh, okay, this is something that they, oh, mine's not highlighted, so I didn't see it, so, anyway. Amends subsection C, solar energy system, commercial subsection, development standards, ground cover by deleting, he just wants to delete this. No insecticide use is permitted on the site. The provision does not apply to insecticide use in on-site buildings, in and around electrical boxes, spot control of noxious weed, or otherwise may be deemed necessary to protect public health and safety. So we are taking that out.
Correct.
And I think we discussed, Connie, there's just really no way to enforce
Okay.
this.
That's not,
It came from the previous guidance from the state statute.
oh, okay. All right, does anyone have any questions or disagreements with this? Do I have a motion to delete this from the,
I'll make a motion to delete, or to pass on the recommendation of commissioners to delete that.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to delete number 5, the amend subsection that I just read. Are there any other questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're on section 6. Amend subsections C, solar energy systems, commercial subsection 2, development standards by deleting subsection D, fencing, and replacing it with the following. Fence required, the project owner shall completely enclose all areas used for commercial SES, including any structure component or electrical device with fencing that is at least 5 feet high. We're deleting 6, right?
Right.
Is that what that means, 5 feet high? Fencing is in addition to any required screening. Detention basins and draining swales are excluded from fencing requirements. Is everybody okay with that? Okay.
I am.
And number 2, well, I think that they might need to get in to clean out the basins and those type of things, so yeah, that shouldn't be fenced in. Fence materials, barbed wire, designs for perimeter fencings are prohibited. Chain link fences and wildlife-friendly fencing such as woven wire installed 6 to 12 inches above the grade are permitted, and that's to allow animals to get under so they can move about freely.
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with that?
The only question I had, and I know, is making sure we specify the barbed wire on our substations. I understand again, that's a building code requirement. So we're not talking about the actual panels, but the substations themselves, if we want to specify that.
The substations are gonna be inside the perimeter, wouldn't they?
Not necessarily, I don't think. I wouldn't think always. I wouldn't want to make sure, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it was just the substations I was gonna make sure, again, you guys can discuss, but to allow the barbed wire on that. My understanding is that is the state building code for.
Well, if it's a state building code, it's a state building code.
Correct, so
we can't change it anyway.
just to clarify it, that was all.
We,
Or you could just let it be and let state statute trump it.
We'll just let state statute trump it, because that's,
They'll trump us on that.
yeah,
If there's a conflict.
yeah. Okay, and then the wildlife corridors, did I read that already? No. If more than, 1,000 acres of contiguous area is enclosed within a single fence, a wildlife corridor shall be provided that meets all of the following standards, which he did not list because they're not changing. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that? I keep looking this way, David, but you need to go on the side of the room so I can. Any questions or comments about any of this? No? To have a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval, favorable recommendation to the commissioners.
I have a motion and a second to send a favorable recommendation to the commissioners with the changes made in section 6C, 1, 2, and 3. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and then this is solar energy systems, commercial subsection, development standards by adding a new subsection H as follows. This is construction. The SES project owner, operator, and/or applicant of the facility shall be responsible for the repair of all damages to the county maintained or non-participating landowners' waterways, drainage ditches, field tiles, or any other infrastructure caused by the construction or maintenance of the project. Damages must be completely repaired to the original or better condition so as not to impede the flow of water. All repairs must be completed in a timely manner, and the SES project owner, operator, or applicant shall be responsible for loss or damage approximately resulting from its impairment of such drainage structures. All repairs to county-maintained drainage structures must be completed within 14 days.
I'll make a motion for a favorable recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for a favorable recommendation for subsection 7, H, construction. Are there any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, this is amended subsection C, solar energy systems, F, county roads. The applicant for any CSES shall enter into a road use agreement with the Clark County Commissioners for use, repair, and improvement of county roads for the duration of the development, construction, operation, and maintenance of the SES.
Make a favorable recommendation.
A second.
I have a motion and a second for favorable recommendation for number 8, section F. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Section 9, amend subsection C, solar energy system, commercial, by adding a new subsection 4 as follows. Land coverage caps, no more than 4,000 acres of fenced area within Clark County can be approved for commercial SES special exception use. Land coverage caps shall be revisited by the Planning Commission after more than 3,000 acres have been developed for such use. Developed shall be defined as the final inspection has been completed.
Is that 5% of our prime farmland in Clark County? Is that roughly what that number is, or is it?
I've not been able to get a number of prime farmland acres in the county.
What's that?
I've not been able to get a number on that. I guess at one of the meetings we had, I had a breakdown trying to figure out what the percentage of like commercial development was in the county and what this would fall out to be, but I don't have those numbers with me.
Okay.
It's not on one site, that's multiple sites, is that?
It's all the solar projects that can come into the county. It can be changed later, but right now,
Make a favorable recommendation to approve section 9.
Second.
I Have a motion and a second to approve section 9, number 4, land coverage caps. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so now this is a whole new section. We're down to the battery, storage system tier 2.
Just so y'all know, those last three, I was gonna group them in one resolution since they were pretty.
That's fine.
Say it again, Eric.
I was gonna put those last three, the county roads and land coverage,
Oh, wait.
and the construction under one resolution, because I didn't think they would have any issue with any, either one of those, so.
Okay.
I just was trying to save a few pages.
I'm just gonna say, based on my experience in researching solar and the time invested, I have not done that with this. I'm not gonna be comfortable either way. I would propose table on this section, give us an opportunity to learn a little bit about it, or, again, my vote would not be in favor.
So my thought is, do we have anything in place now?
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
we need to get something. in
So
place.
I think that and I 100% agree with Larry, there's a lot to learn. I started researching it myself today. But I do think that, we do need to talk about some of the things, and I think someone mentioned about decommissioning plan. There's a lot to look into this.
It requires an M3 zoning in all counts, or?
Well, it says a special exception as an accessory use within the HE district. I personally would not be in favor of that. I just think that it's really commercial. I have done some research on it. When they catch fire, I don't know what they're putting in the air, what people would be breathing. And the other reason is because and it was only one solar company, they're not gonna be using these. So I don't know who would be using these. Would it be Duke? Would it be, who's gonna be using this?
Yeah, there's a lot of unknown. I've reached out and contacted Dave Schick with Tri-Township today, and just kind of spoke to him a little bit about fires, and they really haven't dealt with a lot of it in this county as of now. So he did send me some information, and I forwarded it on to
The
Eric.
utilities are using them at their substations to kind of store power.
I wanna know what these are used for. If the utilities are doing it, then they can do it.
It's still a private company. And they're
Well,
buying and selling power.
It's for peak load demands.
I understand that, but we might have a
It's-
difference of opinion
Yeah,
about
buy low, sell high. You buy energy when it's cheap, you store it, and put it back out on the grid.
And the reason because this was before Eric, so I'll jump in a little bit. The reason this got inserted was because we don't have any standards on this, and it doesn't, so it's very minimally, it's like where we were a number of years ago with some of the other items. So it's just putting a process in place to where it would be a special exception. BZA then could come in and layer in any needed requirements as conditions of approval, if it did get approved, but at least puts a process in place, was the point here. To get something in place
Sure.
that it has a defined process, it's a defined use. There's no use classification that has to be done then, as it does go through and defining it. The tiers came from, a lot of the standard industry practices. APA does put out practice guides, which I did see, that's what some of these were based on, those thresholds on the 600 kilowatt hours.
Is that like average size of a home use system?
The home use
Yeah.
ones are the less than 600. So that's like, if you're gonna have a battery backup in your own house, that's fine. The ones that were more than 600, that's the big ones, right? They come in the containers, it's larger redundancy in power or peak load demands or anything of that nature. So that's where that split is from the industry standard. That was the background behind, if you guys remember, you guys asked for something, at least to be started on that. And this would just give you at least that base level of definition in the
So then currently,
ordinances.
if you wanna put that on your house, you don't need a permit or anything, you just.
You have to get a bill, you still have to get a building
Yeah, you
permit.
get a building
I mean,
permit.
But we allow
Yeah.
battery
yeah, and
systems.
so we're not trying to restrict those.
Just like
for
the
your
house solar
It's,
panels, it's just,
Right.
that small
Bigger
scale
ones.
is just.
Yeah, but like a Tesla, for example, was at 70 kilowatt hours?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's not 600.
Still seems like a battery, I'd be scared of it based on some of the things I've seen.
And that 600, that's where some of the National Fire Protection, the NFPA, those where those codes start to come in, that National Fire Code comes in. So that's where that kind of
That
comes
breaking
from.
point came from,
Mhm, exactly, yeah.
So we're saying we're just gonna put something in place and we can change it.
You always can come back, but at a minimum, even if you don't want to talk about it, at least put it in as a use and define where it's going.
Right.
At a minimum, just so you have
that's
something.
important.
So at this point, with what I'm, again, minimum knowledge and research, as far as section 11, I think item 10, I think is okay, define the tiers. Section 11, I would propose striking section C and limiting that currently to M3 only. You still have it in as a special exception somewhere, right?
No, it would
No,
just.
That's only in
I think
section
it's, I
C.
think it's important we leave it in there for now. We can always change it.
But you want to allow
In
it in an ag
protected-
district right out of the gate? Because
And no, it's a special exception. It can be denied.
It'd be an
Then you have to
accessory
allow it.
use in ag, so my thought there would be, solar farm would have a storage facility, not possibly, and that would be an accessory use.
The only thing I see was also 12, we're still on 11, so we'll vote on that.
Yeah, I would prefer it
So
not
you
be.
need a light industrial zone to have a freestanding.
Yeah.
This is all this facility's gonna be.
I don't really care for tier 2 ag environment based, again, one thing if it's in an industrial zoning, I just agree with putting something in the UDO, and based on my lack of expertise, it's hard to support. I would want to restrict it as much as possible. And
Well,
let's get-
that's why I think right now we put it in, just so
Sure.
we have some protection, but then we come back and we change it, just like we've done with this UDO now for the past year.
But I'm saying, what would the purpose be of allowing it in an ag district right now?
Well, he just said.
As an
solar.
accessory use,
And
like
for
a
the
solar
solar,
farm.
Right, but there's so
But
much
the
we
ones-
don't know about, because you're not placing a limit on size. It's just gotta be over 600 kilowatts, right? That could be
Right.
a half an acre of batteries strung together.
You know
To
what?
clarify
You
though,
got a quarter mile
You don't have
setback.
to.
it's not permitted, the larger ones wouldn't be permitted by this anywhere, except for an M3. So that'd have to go through rezoning at the moment anyway. So the bigger ones are gonna be a special exception unless they go through a rezoning process to get M3.
Well,
If that makes
but
sense.
not the way C's written. C
C is
says tier
special ex-
2 as a special exception as
Right.
an accessory within the ag district.
Right, so it'd still go through a process, it'd go to BCA as a special exception.
so why do we have to allow it? We don't.
You don't, I mean.
You don't, but yeah, it was based on what.
But
it
you
said.
allow public utility facilities,
Well,
and
it's-
AG is a permitted use.
Right.
So it's up to you.
I'd be more comfortable with ag taken out until I'm able to get a little more educated on it. I don't know how you guys
I
feel.
agree.
I don't know how you all feel about it.
Leave it as a special exception in M1 and M2, right?
Because everything we've talked about to date is really centered around proposals that have come before us. None of them have included this type of operation.
Well, the current solar company, I believe they told me that they were not going to be using the batteries.
Right.
So,
So, it should definitely be addressed for the
Right.
future. But
absolutely.
I just haven't invested any time in it. I don't know what you guys.
Yeah, and the one thing you don't want, in my opinion, want to see is you don't want someone coming into the county and, rezoning to M3. And then that's some, if it does get approved or not, but you don't want to rezone something out in the county to an M3, and then all those M3 uses are permitted unless you get a written commitment that gets followed up with, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's always my fear, just as best practice. Because it opens up too many, you know what I mean?
But if you're out in the middle of nowhere trying to zone something M3, that's automatically gonna raise some eyebrows, right?
It should,
mean-
it should, but
Right.
And the M3 has a quarter mile setback for all buildings anyway, so.
M3s are heaviest.
But you're thinking you still would require a special exception in the M3? Or just?
Right now, saying it's permitted, they
Right.
have to rezone right now, so, I mean, somebody would have to rezone.
And again, the BZA is gonna land on their desk, either way, right?
In the other zones, yes.
And the others.
And M3 would be allowed by right, according to this, correct?
Correct.
Right, but that's gonna get, I mean,
We
the
don't-
only RM3 we have now is the landfill, is that correct? So they're gonna have to get a change of zone, and then it would be up to this board and the commission to consider all those possibilities at that time.
So just strike the, yeah.
With the zone changes, that's discretionary, so you don't have all the rules to BZA would have to follow if you.
So Larry, what's your motion?
I'll make a motion for a favorable recommendation to section 10 as written.
Are these gonna be one resolution?
Oh, we're gonna combine
It'll
all
be
these,
one
right?
resolution, I'm still letting them do motions for each
Okay.
section.
So we need to review 12.
Okay, hold on, you just said 10.
I mean,
It's 10.
but you're gonna combine them all?
Well,
You
I'm
wanna
having
do
them
that?
all in one resolution.
Okay.
Yeah,
So 11 and 12 are no longer 11 and 12, they're part of 10 now.
No, we need to look at 12. We
Okay.
haven't looked at it yet.
Okay.
So are we straight?
We're gonna vote on all three as
Yeah.
one.
You can vote on all three.
That's what, yeah, that's why, okay.
Okay, so 12 is amend chapter 4 use and development standards section B by inserting the following new subsection 5 battery energy storage systems and renumbering existing standards for specific uses accordingly as follows. Battery energy storage systems tier 2 purpose. The purpose of regulating certain battery energy storage systems is to advance and protect the public health, safety, welfare, and quality of life within the county. Development standards, 1, no tier 2 battery energy storage systems cannot be located less than 1,320 feet from a residential building.
Hey Connie, that, I think we're missing it. I think we need to take the no out of the first part of that sentence.
Yeah,
Just say,
Tier 2 systems cannot be located.
yeah, yeah. Tier 2, okay, so anyway, now I have a question about that.
Scratch the.
So are they gonna be in a residential, you see what I'm saying? It seems like a conflict to me.
Well, you would have to adhere
1,320 feet
to,
from a residential dwelling.
you said it's the same as a.
Well, if it's a
M3,
special
right?
exception in the M1 zone, you
In
could have a
terms of
house
setbacks,
next
it's a
door.
quarter-mile setback.
So you would have to find a industrial zoning that was that distance from a residential dwelling. If you adopted that standard and you did not want to add that waiver wording that we had, if we had a recorded waiver from a neighbor, then the BZA or that distance could be reduced.
It's too dangerous.
Where did this?
I think that might be one waiver I don't want to grant.
Yeah, no.
Because, let's say they go to sell their house, person buys it, they don't know that waiver's on there, and that thing is.
well, it's recorded with the deed.
I know, but still, you can say that, I didn't look at my deed when I bought my house, so.
You're saying this setback could be waived?
Right. I mean, that was what was,
It's too dangerous.
So the owner of the
She's-
property could waive it, say, oh, you can be closer
It
to
was the
13
same as the setbacks that we had for solar, that it should be waived upon mutual agreement if it's signed. and
For
recorded.
public
dangerous.
safety, I would not want that in.
I agree. I don't think the batteries are something you want to allow that type of waiver.
No,
That's my personal opinion.
yeah. And then,
Because right, wrong, or indifferent, they do catch on fire. They do.
Yeah, yeah, they explode.
emit
Yeah.
A lot of toxic.
yes, that's my fear, I really don't want it close to residential area. All tier 2 battery energy storage systems shall be installed and maintained in compliance with the national, NFPA fire code, NFPA 70, National Electric Code, and just all the things that has to abide by anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not familiar with fire code. I don't know. if
I
it's
don't
very
trust me,
bad.
those are the specific code references that they would have to follow.
Where did this verbiage come from? Is this something, the whole section 5 here under 12?
So there are some there are some best practices out there. Again, it's a more common use now than maybe it was a decade ago, just like other uses. And so some of those, again, the definitions come from a variety of sources, but actually APA does put out some good guidance, which is the American Planning Association. They do zoning practice guides frequently, and that's where a lot of those definition work, came from. And then the uses and districts, that was just
I mean, just
you
research.
putting in there. And the setbacks were not from necessarily one of those guides. That would be above and beyond probably what normally would be
No, that
in a lot of
was
those
just a
guides.
suggestion that was provided.
But the fire protection codes, those come specifically from what it is referenced as.
They handed us one of these today.
Yep.
That's what I was gonna look at, just to see
Yeah.
how it made it around to me, but I would imagine that
I've read
that's
that
in
a
it.
couple times, that exact one, yeah.
All right, I would like to make a favorable recommendation for items number 10, 11, and 12, contingent upon the following changes, that under item 11, section C, Ag District is stricken, and item 12, subsection 5, B1, remove the word no at the beginning of the sentence.
Is there a second?
I would second that, yes, for sure.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve Larry's motion, and I'm not going to repeat, so.
Taking ag district out, right?
Right, taking ag with all the changes that he made. Are there any other questions, comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And that's it.
So on the topic of batteries, can we set a time to revisit that particular section?
Yeah, he's probably gonna read some of the stuff that was
Yeah,
given to us
let me do some
tonight.
more research on it, and, probably wouldn't hurt to have like a small, 2 or 3 people get together, through the minutes, and just kind of hash it out, and see
Right.
what direction we may go.
Yeah.
And then provide a standardized report, establish, do it on the side as an email, just to kind of feel. Been thinking about sending out surveys on different things I'm seeing, just,
Hey, guys, we're still having a meeting.
and reply back with what your opinions are, and I can kind of get the consensus for any other future amendments we may want to make.
Sure.
It's hard to do everything in a meeting.
Right.
Now, different opinions, it seemed like it'd be a lot easier if I could get some surveys out. And that's what I'm gonna do on this
Yeah, I
rules
still
of
can't-
procedure too, so
Okay.
that's the planning report.
Okay. Oh, that's a planning report, so we were there. Legal counsel.
No pending actions.
Okay, prior, did everybody have a chance to read the minutes? I just told you.
I did.
I'd like to make a motion to approve them, they appear to be correct to me. Second.
Have a motion and second to approve the minutes from October 9th, 2024. Any questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I want to thank everyone.
Second.
I want to thank everyone. You are all, thank you for being courteous to each other. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thanks again to all the veterans out there.
Yes.
You're welcome.